This is day 547, the Arukh HaShulchan Yomi. If you'd like to sponsor our coming share more of the Arukh HaShulchan Yomi, please contact me directly. Be very greatly appreciated. Today we're doing Simon Shin Chav Vav Ches to Shin Chav Zayin Beis. Ches. Arukh HaShulchan, somebody who washes in the river. Sarich Shinagi Gufo Yofi Yofem Ksholem in our he's got excuse me. He's got to drive his body very well when he comes up from the river. So no water remains on him. And he'll be carrying the 4 amos in the Carmelis when he moves away from the riverbank. The Shmuel writes in Name that in the river itself, when you come up from a deep place and half your body is outside the water, you got to be careful not to go 4 amos even in the river itself, because the river itself is a Carmelis. Okay, back to Arukh HaShulchan, because when you come up from the water, you have a lot from the washing, you have a lot of water on your body. But somebody goes in a public domain, and rain drips down on his head and on his garments. Not concerned because they're not that many. Even if there are lots of them, what's he going to do? It's against his will. Furthermore, it's like a psikresha because he doesn't want to have water on him. The person who washed the river, when he went down to the river, was his own will and with his own pleasure. And therefore, any even slight malach which is done as this count is like it's done with his will and intent. Should be careful in the river, not to swim. Also, you see little twigs on the water, you can't spread them from here and there. You gotta go to my in order to clean the water in the place where you're standing. I'm not sure exactly why. Maybe it's like Ma'amer. Be careful not to squeeze your hair. Even though with the rights that there's no squeezing by hair. Since there are rabbinic prohibition involved. It's very prevalent when you put your head underwater, and rise up again. May seem to have wild soul, may seem a double show. When you do that, you put your hand on your head, without sensing it. Sochet, as I say, or you squeeze your hair, as is known, and can be perceived, obviously, by anybody who's watching. Test. Since there are great stumbling blocks involved in potential difficulties and failures in rinsing or washing a river, therefore, we have a principle, Chazal made not to wash your whole body on Shabbos at all, even in cold water. But Tshuva, Maria writes this, maybe it's not back to Chazal, maybe Kamerenu here just refers to Rishonim, because Maria is obviously much later than Chazal. The Maril says that women don't go to the mikvah if it's not the Leil Tefillah, which is dictated by the Shivanakim on Shabbos. If it's not Leil Tefillah, they're going because it's a different night. They wouldn't go on Shabbos. Shumadesh also says it's a custom, evidently not the Rabbanan Mamish, custom not to wash in cold water. Well, here's it explicitly. Goes hundreds of years back, not thousands, hundreds. So here comes to break the fence down, which is made by older generations. Allah is such a person. It says the same thing it says by somebody who breaks the mamish rabbanon. For somebody who breaks the fence, shall be bitten by a snake. Like kidneys. We accept this as a severe prohibition. We believe the Chotzman Haros not to wash in rivers, vagamim, and lakes, mayonos, and in springs, b'Shabbos, klal uklal, altogether. Yud, mikol nevertheless, we both mikvah Shabbos shachris to go to mikvah Shabbos in the morning, mutter. Otherwise, Chassidim would have nothing to rely on. Be'er Halacha writes that tefillah, Be'er Halacha is a real Litvak. He says here that the tefillah is just because of Tosefes Kedusha, not because of tefillah Ezra or something like that, but just to add on Kedusha that you should refrain from. But the Arukh doesn't make that distinction. What he adds, Ufrat Mishorgim Volkurio, especially somebody who goes to mikvah when he has an emission or has relations. He writes that there are some people machmir not to taiva, even for relations or emissions, and somebody who's mekel, you don't protest against him. And certainly he becomes tamei on Shabbos Yom Tov itself. You certainly don't have to be machmir. And this is why it's a minhag lahati for the amount here that many people, specifically Hasidim, go to mikvah on Shabbos and Yom Tov when they have emissions or have had relations. Okay, back to Arukh HaShulchan. Going to the mikvah, unlike putting kelim in mikvah, which Ashkenazim at least also because it looks like misakin keli, a fixing vessel. This doesn't apply by human being. Shemedina batlu l'tfilusa because we have a siman peches because this there's no tfilas Ezra is no longer actually mandatory, so therefore there's no actual tikkun here. Tikkun is only when you actually have to fix something, but it's not necessarily since not mandated as long as that there's no true fixing in it. Be careful nevertheless. I'm sorry. You have to be careful not to squeeze your hair. Mikvah should also not be so hot. If it's a gomer, then there's an absolute prohibition because of washing in hot water. You turn name a potion that should be cold or lukewarm. Nevertheless, person who's not conversant with the halachos should refrain from washing on Shabbos. From going to mikvah on Shabbos. The bakal yovoli de isim b'schut hair is very easy for you to come to the prohibition of squeezing his hair. What she's made now, like I see people actually do. And even though there are those, like Mishpur referenced before, who are not so happy with going to the mikvah on Shabbos, the final analysis that they were not concerned about this. The question is why it's a minute b'chol tfutzos Yisrael. And it says, it brings down the brackets, and before you basically it's on base. The other mutar, litbo b'Shabbos, litbo, first allowed to go to the mikvah on Shabbos, neither can make it looks like he's just going to cool off, not to actually be involved in washing himself. You're allowed to wash your hands, your hands first, your face, your hands, and your feet with things which are not, I think it's depilatories, not things which don't cause the hair to fall off. Even the chemicals using are mixing with chemicals that do cause hair to fall off. As long as the majority of the concoction is not from things which cause hair to fall off. Because if there was, the majority of the concoction was of things which are depilatories, so then, of course, they're definitely going to cause hair to fall out. But she should have a psik ratio. It's a psik ratio, and it's a machine she'eim amut. Supposed to where it's a minority of the mixture. Here, psik ratio. It's not a necessary result. Even if you pluck out in the end, because with this concoction which is not made to pluck out, which is you didn't intend to do, and therefore it's permissible. Because Rabbi Seinu. The Baal Shulchan Aruch Sif Yud, the Baal Shulchan Aruch, right? Mutachatz Yodav b'mursan, allowed to wash your hands with a kind of coarse bran mixture, the kibu kachiyad shari, because when you mix it, you're mixing it in not the normal way, and that's permissible. V'asul l'chotz Yodav b'melchin, allowed to wash your hands with salt, v'choshkem v'boris, and certainly not with borish according zayt, soap. B'shar chelev or other types of tallow. the nimach al yodo davi nola, because it gets dissolved on his hands and it becomes nolad. Okay? The infamous prohibition of using solid soap because of nolad. What's this quote from again? By Rabbi Seimal Shomar. Biradvar means to say lavadi tam shinu bilchod. It's not just a question of shinui. It came a kemach nami. So in that case, flour also requires shinui. Elevadi the issa the rice to smoke atchila shinui iyam shar mokum shein tzargora. So it must be that to rely on a shinui by the rice. It's not tzargora. We don't rely. So why el ikatam b'morsan? So why is the bran mixture okay? The morsan that there's no issue of needing the bran on Shabbos, and because it doesn't get actually needed properly. What Rebbe says, he tired it with siman. By the time it's started with siman shinchav dalid, they take most of mine and behema until we allow you to put coarse bran into water for an animal. Osim misham, those who forbid there, osim kakan, they forbid over here as well. To use this bran mixture. Achmilohe view the kandas yeshul string mochiv yisham, since the opinion which is forbade over there is not brought down here. Yeshul, I can say the kamutar chodeus. Perhaps it's much good to everybody. There's ain't no say most of my mind elashalochim, but you lochem with them tools. You don't put the coarse bran in the water and mix. You just take the coarse bran with wet hands. Kokam nashi dan nagela. Our women, their custom is to not to do this. The Shmuel says it's mutter to everybody, and he didn't write down this minute to aser. So they didn't between Radin and Nevardik. Radin did not have a minute to aser, and on the Nevardik they evidently did. It's appropriate what the women do. The adua, it's known, bebir with clarity, maknatilam. If we just allow anything to them, give them a finger, they'll take a hand. Yishvua maima subin shvidem. They're going to spill the water on the bran on in their hands. Udas Rabbi Shebeinu Sham, and according to the Rabbi brought down way back when, Havi Amalocha, just putting in water, I call it mine, was considered to be lisha with these with something which is not a bar gibul, something which is not can't be fully needed. That's an irony, a bit paradox. So we illustrate the article, so which can't be fully needed. The kneading is the putting in of the liquid in and of itself. The Ram also only allowed this by coarse bran, not by medium grade bran. Who can distinguish among us between medium and coarse bran. Ashes are also like mursan. That's the rabbit, so perches, let's see that's my efer. And the rabbit, even you put water into ashes, there's a liability you're high because you of needing. The rock b'chol hagas yucholinikos. So I can use is coarse sand. It's a chiyama ebo mishum gibul, because there's nobody else has any form of kneading whatsoever. What's that the shop? And with salt, with soap, and with tallow, have a noilat. Because you're dissolving it. Boss, it's forbidden. And here Shemachim Erev Shabbos, Borish Nitach B'Shkoin Molinis. You prepare liquid soap. Mutter B'Zeh, L'nakol Sedaim. You can use liquid soap to clean your hands. V'chein Mutar Nakos B'Afra Mina Milavena Kutusha. You're also allowed to clean yourself with dirt from a crushed block. I'm not sure why. I guess because it's not considered by Gibel at all. The Yeshimata Boris to those who allow you to use soap. When the Abraham is in town, going to name Shita Shosser. It's astonishing and it's definitely Osser. I believe Ravadi has makeup for soap for starting. That's my recollection, I'm not sure. Bialacha writes that if it's impossible to get soap not made from forbidden fats, from trade fats, from Caleb, it's appropriate to refrain from using soap made out of trade fat, even on a weekday, because it's the opinion that that anointing yourself is the same as drinking, so you shouldn't do that. with prohibited soap. A very interesting idea. You base obviously our soap is not really like perhaps theirs was. You base says Shabbos if you have a bath house where they closed up the openings before Shabbos. In other words, they kind of insulated a large bath house over Shabbos. Shabbos you can wash it immediately. And they didn't close up the holes. Even if it was heated up on its own on Shabbos, so you have to wait after Shabbos, enough time for the elapsed to have done it then. Because you're not allowed to do it, lest you come to stir the coals. Explains. Their bathhouses were heated from underneath the floor. And there was in the ground of the bath holes through which the heat rose from the bottom. If you close these holes, the heat doesn't enter into the bathhouse, into the pool. If they close up the holes before Shabbos, the heat didn't come in on Shabbos. You can open up the holes, so you can wash it immediately. But it didn't stop up the holes. After Shabbos, and the heat comes on. It comes into the pool itself on Shabbos. Ancient Isser means it's true. There's no direct prohibition. This nevertheless also they forbade this scenario. Because you might come to break the coals. Which are underneath the floor of the mikveh. In order that the heat should come out more powerfully. We have to wait the amount of time of Kadesh Yaseh. Don't learn from this. You can't open the ventilator of the small vent of a winter furnace after it's been stoked. As long as there's no suspicion of causing something to be more ignited or more extinguished, open it up. Therefore, a prohibition on opening a door between two rooms, so heat in one room can go to the next room. They forget it forbidden by a bathhouse, because in the bathhouse, that is the way it's normally stoked. That's the ikar process of the bathhouse, because the floor is the heat is on the floor, underneath the floor. Liftach listok, you're going to open and close. There's the possibility we should be afraid that you might come to rake the coals. But if you're opening a generic opening in order to let warmth in, into the less, there's no logic to answer it. So in the brackets, says people have a head to to open up vents. It's clear. We just said that vents are okay, going from one room to the other. We already explained that they forbade perspiration on Shabbos. In a small bathhouse, which is full of perspiration. I guess it's condensation would be the best word here. Also, now the past two. In other words, condensation, the heat of condensation causes you to perspire. But if it's a municipal bathhouse, you can walk through them. Not be concerned. They're not so hot. There isn't that more moisture always lurking in the air. Yeshua writes that according to Mechaber, it's mutter if you don't have kavana to derive pleasure from the condensation. According to Ramah, it's awesome. By tfilas noshim, when women have to go to the mikvah, you have to say that rely b'shas chak on the Mechaber, that if you don't have kavana to have anah, it's okay. Okay, back to Arukh HaShulchan. The issue so vacuum during a city in which Jews and non-Jews live. The Yeshua Rechatz and Yisrael Shabbos has a bathhouse which is stoked on Shabbos. In Rov Akum, most people in the city are non-Jews. Mutter Lechutz Motzei Shabbos Miyad, you're allowed to wash in Shabbos immediately because it wasn't done for Jews per se. In Rov, so most people in the city are Jews. Also Motzei Shabbos Akadesh Yuchot. So us use the bathhouse on Motzei Shabbos until such time as it can be actually heated up after Shabbos. The Mistama Adai Teruva Mesikim, because normally when we heat up the bathhouse, we heat it up for the majority of whoever's living there. But I feel mechza, even if it's 50-50, also with the shiatza, that's the way it took the shiatza. The Vare's Kamlashneim certainly had in mind both. In other words, whoever made the fire had both in mind the Jews and the non-Jews. Because somebody didn't say any doubt in this matter, also, it's forbidden. Instead of doing now, when it's a Sabbath, do it tomorrow when it's definitely mutter. Which goes up, we run in previous simon, Gabi Dover about Mechutz of Chum, the sun comes after Mechutz of Chum, even though it's also the Rabbanon, we're machmir because it's a Dover Sheish Matir. It says the bracket Shechem were more Kufn and Olive from Ralph, the Rav, the Yosef Kabbalah, Yisur, I ain't Sham, but though the Rav who holds, the Pascal like him in Isser, holds that it's a Dover Sheish Matir, you have to be more stringent. Shein Chav Zayin, Dinei Sicha b'Shabbos, anointing oneself on Shabbos. Sicha l'oneself b'Shabbos, to anoint oneself on Shabbos is not prohibited. It's not prohibited. Also, we're not allowed to use things which become less viscous when you spread them because of nolad. And also not things that you need to smear because of the prohibition of smearing. Also not with things which could cause a fragrance. Most of their anointing was with oil which had none of these issues. Even as a mind for healing, because he has some sort of ache. And we know that if somebody who has an ache, just a plain ache, on Shabbos cannot make a full because of the gzera that he might come to grind herbs, because she's going to see in Shin Chavkas. And things which healthy people will also do. It's also for the sick person. Which also for he's not doing not nika, he's doing it for a four. Which is Barsham has become clarified there. Base. Chacham said, somebody who has a ache in his hips. What is shemen? You should not spread on them oil and vinegar. Sounds like a salad. Anyway, this word now is another case of wine and vinegar. But that means, he says, it means even one of them. It's not you need both oil or wine or vinegar, but either one of them. Is a problem? No, that's not true. Only oil and vinegar is a problem. Says, if you use oil by itself, the comments in Brim Sachim, because healthy people don't anoint themselves with vinegar, and therefore if you use vinegar, is being used for healing. How about Shem and Sachim? People use oil, even though they're not sick. The Gam B'Shem Berlis, you not use rose oil. Should have a B'Yoka God because it's very expensive. They bring Sachim, and healthy people don't use it. It's clear it's being done for a four. And the Mishnah says, even through non-Jews, sir, if you're getting better by leaps and strides, and you are already regarded as being more or less healthy. Back to the Shulchan Mimumakum, Mishamatsu Shem Shem and Vegen, the Degri Aladim Sucha, if you slow over floor. It says, why are you so being Malachimu? They're suitable to use oil, rose oil. So if it is a place where there's enough oil, and people use it there, even when it's not refuah, it's permissible. The same Sheno get Klaus Lubukol, and our country we don't anoint it with oil at all, even on a weekday. Also, Sukkot Shabbos for now it's used on Shabbos for healing also. We don't put stock in it. Also, Sukkot Rosh Sheish B'Chatlatim. If we're not allowed to anoint with oil in your head if it has an itch. They should stop it, but not clear today. Saying wants to anoint himself on Shabbos. Upari is healthy. Miramain the Mutter we say it's permissible. Gimel we say came from the regular bream. Well, Sukkot Satzmov. since healthy people in our day and age do not anoint themselves, Yom HaShachol, they're going to say that he is a chole. And I guess that's the problem because it's not a chole. Okay? Kam because the teacher with Maris Ayin, because it looks like Maris Ayin, because people don't think it was a chole, I feel it's Rabbanan, even at the rabbinic prohibition. It's not sure the Dino what the actual halacha would be if somebody can anoint himself with oil on Shabbos if he's healthy. Gimel, yesh shev eitz hasika memashmesh b'chol haguf. Sometimes when you anoint yourself, you massage your entire body. Zeu tov shiklot hashemen mei haguf. And it's good that you should do this to remove the oil from the body. You can anoint and feel, but you cannot work out, and cannot use kind of like a scratching tool to scratch it off on Shabbos. You can't. You do the same way you do on a weekday. On a weekday, you put on the oil, and then you smear it around. Shabbos, and Shabbos you should do simultaneously. Not only also shouldn't do it with strength, but rather weekly. Shura says, as long as you don't have in mind to bring yourself to perspiration, it's okay. Okay, but this is talking about not perspiration, it's talking about anointment, so I'm not sure what he's referring to. So you can't scratch the body with the vessel which is made for that. And can you your dove or aglom unless your hands and legs were disgusting with pitch and excrement. If you had a special back scratcher for Shabbos, that's permissible. Now we don't know anything about this scratching off